starts with a huge close-up of an eyeball. Slowly, it dissolves into a shot of a vast cityscape at night. It's the biggest city he's ever seen. Towers of flame shoot up in the air, narrowly missing the occasional flying car. This is the future. Zoom in closer, much closer. The God's eye view. Down into the streets below. An Asian city. A handheld tracking shot by a director of Hong Kong thrillers. Pre-handover. Jerky and nervously energized. Slick with rain. There he is, dreaming of worlds created by Disney, Miyazaki, and Hanna-Barbera. This was before he discovered that there was someone hiding behind the movie camera. There was one film that did that for him, when everything just clicked into place. He tries to remember what it was called. The Lady from Shanghai. There's a flash forward here, or it could be a dream sequence. He's an adult now, and he's gone to Paris to look for her. The boat left, and after a smile, she was gone. Or she went into a petrol station to buy something to drink, and never came out. So he's in Paris, and he's getting maudlin in bars. He thinks about the 1960s, when everyone was a filmmaker. Nothing's changed. Even the barman is capturing digital video on his laptop. He wonders what kind of film the barman is making. Pop video, pornography, masterpiece. The next day, he goes to see a private detective whose office is located above a Japanese restaurant. They go across the road for breakfast. He just has coffee. The detective orders pancakes. He tells him about the girl and how he lost her, about wanting to find out where she is. And the detective gets all sentimental and starts talking about his favorite film. Something about a woman in love with a man's best friend, but the best friend is the bad guy. But he isn't listening. In fact, he finds himself transfixed on the man sitting behind him, eating his breakfast noisily. Is he being followed? He goes for a walk afterwards to get some fresh air, to lose himself amongst the holiday makers. Back again to the same place for the millionth time. He imagines he can see the girl, lost in Paris, unable to communicate, sitting in this park, meeting some old French actor on a bench, seeing ghosts, but she isn't there. He has a big meal and decides to leave Paris. He can feel that the trail has gone cold. He thinks that in the movie of this, he should be played by Christopher Walken. When he was 12, he was given a video recorder as a birthday present. Until it broke down, he recorded every film on television that he could. Good or bad, old and new, he watched them all before and after school, and wrote down summaries of the plots on ruled pieces of paper. The moment when he truly fell in love with cinema, it was a family holiday, the time of the year when there are loads of films on TV. Fantasy films with special effects, guys on a mission films, black and white comedies, thrillers about private detectives, westerns, claustrophobic horror. His family became an extension of things he was watching. They became ghosts, the cowboy gangs, the gangsters, the cops, and the fairies from the magical kingdom. He can't remember the first film he saw in the cinema. He's tried to recall it, and no one in his family has that memory. Perhaps it was really disappointing, because he seems to have blanked it out. Cut abruptly to his 30th birthday. He's with the girl. They are drunk and in the back of a taxi. They are laughing, on their way to see a film, but inside he's thinking, I never became a film director. Tonight, he will leave for another city. He wants to go back east. In the film version of this, he thinks he should be played by Anthony Wong. On the right is a movie star. He's never been in the same room as a movie star before, but he can tell this guy is one because he can't stop looking at him. He tried not to believe in stars, imagined it was all makeup, lighting, and good clothes. But here he is in a room with someone beautiful. He feels terrible taking photographs, as if he's stealing something. He has the saddest eyes in the world. Is everyone in the city lonely tonight? Did everyone just wake up to find their memories wiped out? Back home, he goes to a place where he can have his fortune told. He came here before when he was a boy. The fortune he picks describes the plot of a film he once watched in precise and utterly lucid detail. It reminds him of a time when the whole of his neighborhood was covered in weird graffiti, messages that seemed like nonsense to his friends, but for him were a set of coded instructions from the future. He needs to watch a film again. It's been at least 24 hours. He's not fussy. Anything on the big screen, as long as it's not in English and it has to be a musical. It must have hundreds of extras, and it should have many long, elaborate takes where the camera moves through entire landscapes before setting on a close-up of a woman's face. And then everything went dark around her, and she fell into a deep sleep, and she had a dream. In her dream, she is traveling across a cold country, somewhere in Europe, and it's winter. She has to change trains in a very remote place. It's desolate and empty. Trains thunder by and don't stop. Her connection is late. She hears footsteps on the platform. He's also waiting for the same train, a sleeper to an old city like Budapest or Prague. They have never met before, but there's a sense of recognition. Deja vu. When they film this, he wants to be played by Tadanobu Asano. When he was younger, he had a profound fear of seeing something he shouldn't. He refused to watch films. He spent much of his time imagining things that were far more horrific or explicit than what could be depicted. Eventually, he saw a horror film. He couldn't believe how tame it was. Just a whole lot of blood. From that day on, he would try and watch everything. When he was old enough, he took a bus out to the edges of town to the sleaziest cinema he could find. The posters for the films made 1,000 promises that he desperately needed them to keep. When he got inside the cinema, the film had already begun. In the dark, he sensed the bodies of many people, sitting alone, one seat between them, sighing occasionally. He likes to watch, hidden, observing, feeling almost sick in excitement at what is about to happen on the screen. This is where he gets his first job, watching everything. They make him remove his precious seconds. He keeps all the things he cuts on a series of VHS tapes and watches them at home. A chronology of depravity, subversion, obscenity. He sleeps with the TV on. She wakes up. He found her eventually. Of course she'd lost her memory. Someone had hypnotized her into forgetting him. Maybe the detective had fallen in love with her and then did the job on her memory so that he could have a fresh start, and maybe he'd realized he'd wiped the memories of the wrong girl. He gets a job as a photographer, and as he photographs a film director, he wonders, how can you make something so perfect? How far will you go to reach that point? The man is quiet, humble, and unassuming, and yet the job he does requires impossible amounts of self-belief, arrogance, patience, and vision. When the shoot is over, he walks into the nearest cinema and demands to see anything as long as it's a comedy, features animals, and is made in South Korea. In the middle of the film, he suddenly gets up and finds himself walking into a corridor at the back of the cinema. It's empty there, and the sounds of the movie echo through the space. This must be the end of the film. He thinks about the girl for the first time in years. The memory is fragile. It flickers faintly. The last time he saw her, she was walking away from him on a long empty road. She had just walked past him. There was no sign of recognition. It's time for the big fade out, a tracking shot, an orchestra quietly sounding sinister. The sign reads, "No trespassing, no going back."